Chapter 193, Panmagia's Suspicions, 2. Panmagia lowered her head and looked at the white bun in her hand. After thinking for a while, she gritted her teeth, put a steamed bun into Ling Yun's hand and said, "My friend gave it to me, and I'll give one to you. Think of it as an advance thank you gift for the water bottle." Ling Yun took the steamed bun and said with a smile, "Thank you." Soon they heard sirens blaring from the loudspeakers in the village. When the villagers heard the sound, they stopped working and went to sit under the tree. It was already noon, and although it was spring, the sun was scorching. During the break, family members came over one after another to deliver lunch. Panmagia sat under the tree and had lunch. Ling Yun followed her and sat down next to her. As soon as they sat down, a group of educated youth came over to sit with them. "Comrade Pan, do you only eat one steamed bun?" Comrade Han asked. "No, I brought some pancakes too," Panmagia said as she took out the pancakes wrapped in oil paper from the bamboo basket. Mother Lu made 3 coarse-grain pancakes for her. Since Panmagia did not pay for the meal, she bought several kilograms of coarse grains, flour, meat, and salt from the state-owned supply store or black market and gave them to the Lu family. This can be regarded as paying for her share of food. "I brought some dried meat. Do you want some?" Comrade Han asked again. "No, I have pickles," Panmagia declined politely. Although he felt a little disappointed, he did not persist. It's already good to be able to at least have a meal with her. Ling Yun glanced at Comrade Han and found that he had been looking at Panmagia. He raised his eyebrows with a knowing expression. Panmagia didn't notice anything and handed a piece of pancake to Ling Yun without saying a word. For her, 1 steamed bun and 2 pancakes are more than enough, so she didn't mind giving him a pancake. After all, he was still injured and needed to eat. Panmagia felt so strange while eating. Normally, she's a brave and generous person. She's not afraid of anything and is very outspoken. This is also the reason why she dares to make money from the black market and has several acquaintances both in the government and in the black market. But sometimes, like when she witnessed Huang Yuanfeng being attacked, she would become timid and vindictive. Under normal circumstances, if she encounters someone being attacked, even if that person is someone she doesn't like, she will rush out to help her regardless of the consequences and danger. But that time before she could move, she felt something suppressing her emotions. All her bravery was gone, replaced by deep fear. She even hoped that the attacker would not notice her and concentrate on attacking Huang Yuanfeng so that she could escape. Recalling her mood and thoughts at that time, Panmagia felt a chill down her spine. How could she have such an idea? It was as if there was an invisible hand controlling her thoughts, emotions, and body, as if she had changed into a different person. It was not until Huang Yuanfeng was sent to the hospital that she regained control of her body, mind, and emotions. After breaking off her friendship with Zyro Yiking, she could feel the invisible hand controlling her even more. It wasn't until a few days after the new year that she felt the invisible hand slowly disappear. It was as if the shackles that bound her were lifted, and she could finally breathe freely and live as herself. Although she still sometimes feels suppressed mentally and physically, it's not as bad as before. At least, as long as she concentrates and strengthens her will, she can defeat those negative emotions. Panmagia glanced at Ling Yun, and that feeling came again. Whenever she was nice to him or he was nice to her, she would have a strong urge to be cruel to him, to push him out of her life. He is obviously a very good person, how could she hate him? Not wanting to hurt him, she tried to keep her distance from him. Everything was fine until this morning when she saw him come to work. She didn't know when he moved to Zai Village, or why he moved here. This production team is at the bottom of the rank. Even she wants to be transferred to a better production team so that she can get more food with less work points. While she was lost in thought, Ling Yun looked at her empty hands amusedly. He had noticed that she had finished eating the steamed buns. Even if there was nothing in her hands, she still took a bite. He smiled softly, took the pancake from the oil paper and put it in her hand. The moment their hands touched, Panmagia came back to her senses. She looked at the large hand with distinct joints above her small hand in confusion. "You've been biting the air for a while now here, eat the pancakes." Hearing a deep voice with a hint of laughter coming from the side, Panmagia's body jerked back suddenly. She looked up and found everyone looking at her. Under the gaze of everyone, she smiled awkwardly and said, "Ha ha ha, I must have fallen asleep just now. Ha ha ha." Hearing this, Ling Yun burst into laughter. After a while he suppressed his laughter and said, "Comrade Pan, you are really amazing. You can eat while sleeping. I must learn from you. This is a good way to optimize our limited time." Panmagia saw him laughing and was speechless. Since it was she who spoke that lame excuse, she could only lower her head and bite the pancake as if she was biting him. They finished lunch in awkward silence and then took a nap. Chapter 194, Gratitude. At the same time, Lu Jiu has found her husband. Now that she already knew where he was assigned, she didn't need to take a detour to find him. Seeing that he was already resting under the tree, she walked over and said, "Husband, have you been waiting for a long time?" Li Chenmo opened his eyes and saw his wife walking over carrying a 3-layer bamboo basket. He stood up, took the bamboo basket and said, "Not long ago, I was taking a nap." "I will come early tomorrow," Lu Jiu said with a hint of guilt. "Take your time, there's no need to rush," Li Chenmo said with a smile and patted her head. His meaning was very clear. There was no need to blame herself for such a trivial matter. After covering the ground with cloth, Lu Jiu placed the bamboo basket on the ground. She did not take out the food from the bamboo layer, so others could not see what she had brought. She handed a bamboo tube filled with bone soup to her husband and said, "Husband, drink some soup first." Li Chenmo nodded and took a sip of soup. The flavor was strong but not greasy. He drank a few more sips before taking a steamed bun and eating it. The steamed bun was as big as his fist, but he only took a few bites and finished it. He picked up the stir-fried vegetables with chopsticks and tasted them. The vegetables were fresh and had a hint of sweetness. The texture is crunchy and the seasoning is light. While eating, Lu Jiu filled her husband's thermos with water she brought. After that, she took out the banana cake wrapped in banana leaves from the basket and put it into Li Chenmo's bamboo basket. Seeing the banana leaves, Li Chenmo asked, "Wife, what did you bring for me?" "I made some banana cake. Husband, you can eat some to fill your stomach later," Lu Jiu said and took a steamed bun. They chatted while eating. After lunch, Lu Jiu packed up her things and said, "Husband, you should take a nap first. I will send some water and banana cake to our parents and brothers." "All right, be careful on the road." Li Chenmo nodded and squeezed her hand for a moment before reluctantly letting her go. After she left, several villagers came to sit with him. Seeing them coming, Li Chenmo nodded to them and closed his eyes to rest. The villagers were disappointed to see him taking a nap and had no intention to chat. They came because they were curious. They wanted to see what Lu Jiu had brought for him, wrapped in banana leaves. It looked like food, but they had just had lunch, so why did she give him another portion of food? Unfortunately, no matter how curious they were, Li Chenmo had no intention of talking to them and continued to sleep. After delivering lunch to her husband, Lu Jiu went to find her parents. Father Li and her parents were assigned to the east area. It didn't take long before she arrived in the east farmland. They were still on their lunch break when she arrived. She saw her parents chatting with Father Li while they were resting. When she walked to them, Lu Jiu covered her hands with the bamboo basket and filled the kettle with water from the space. When she reached their location, the kettle had been refilled. Father Li saw her coming and asked, "Third daughter-in-law, why are you here?" "Father-in-law, father, mother," Lu Jiu greeted and sat down next to Mother Lu. "Jiu, have you sent lunch to your husband?" Mother Lu asked. "Yes, mother, I just came back from delivering lunch. I brought you water." After hearing her words, Father Li smiled and said, "Thank you, third daughter-in-law." "Father, this is just a small thing." Lu Jiu filled their water bottles for them and said, "Father, mother, I also brought the banana cake I made in the morning. You can eat it later to fill your stomach." Although they had just finished lunch, they did not refuse her and accepted the banana cake. After filling their water bottles, she went to find her brothers and Li Chen's. Fortunately, they were assigned to the same place, the south area, so she didn't have to walk long to reach their place. When she arrived, the lunch break was over. Chen Anwen saw her coming and said, "Jiu, why are you here? The sun is very strong, so it's not good for you to go out for too long. It would be bad if you get heat stroke or sunburn." "Sister-in-law, I'll be back as soon as I deliver the water." Lu Jiu pointed at the kettle and said. Chen Anwen looked at her and said helplessly, "Your body is weak, so you don't need to bother sending water to us. I can go back and take it." "Don't worry, sister-in-law, it's on the way, so it's not a problem." "All right then, if you feel unwell, there is no need to send water. Your second sister-in-law can send it to us," Chen Anwen said. "Sister-in-law, I put the kettle and cake here. Just give them to my husband when you go back," Lu Jiu said, placing the kettle and bamboo basket next to the tree. "Okay, thank you, Jiu." After Chen Anwen finished speaking, she continued to plow the land. Lu Jiu looked at Chen Anwen's soaked back. Her body was soaked with sweat, and sweat dripped from her chin to the ground. Her hands were also red from plowing. At this moment, she was full of gratitude to her family and her husband. She has never had to work in the fields and has experienced the hardships involved. Therefore, she needs to ensure that her husband and family have adequate nutrition and food so that they do not get sick from work. Recalling what her grandparents told her in her previous life, the real hardship will come after spring plowing. Sowing begins as soon as plowing is over, so they don't have days off. Afterward, they need to harvest the crops in the summer. During the fall and winter, they let the land rest, fertilize, and prepare for next year's planting. As for the villagers, they plant some winter vegetables in autumn and harvest them in late winter. These vegetables will be pickled and eaten for a year. On the way home, Lu Jiu counted the time and thought that it would be good if her husband started reviewing the junior high school and high school courses. Since there is no culinary major in this era, she does not plan to take the college entrance examination. Instead, she wanted her husband to take the exam. As for herself, she would start doing business as soon as the economic reforms began. Her dream is to own her own chain of restaurants across the country. It would be great if her restaurant could develop into a well-known Michelin star restaurant. With her and her husband's combined efforts, she was sure their business would flourish. She couldn't help but feel happy when she thought about that day. When she was 10 meters away from her house, Lu Jiu saw someone peeking into her house from the fence. Looking at the figure of the woman, she called, "Aunt Lee." Hearing her voice, Aunt Lee turned around and said, "Jiu, you are finally home." Lu Jiu looked at her anxious look and asked, "Aunt Lee, what's wrong? What brought you here? Shouldn't you be working in the fields now?" "I was working just now, but your second brother-in-law's wife suddenly fainted, and there was no one at her home. We couldn't find her husband, so we came to find you," Aunt Lee said. "Aunt Lee, are you saying that Zhao Siyu fainted?" "That's right, come with me. We took her to Dr. Zai's house, but she refused to receive treatment and said she was not sick," Aunt Lee said as she led the way. Lu Jiu was startled by the sudden situation. She didn't know why Aunt Lee came to find her, instead of going to find Father Li as Zhao Siyu's father-in-law, or Zhang Dongmei, who was the Li family's eldest daughter-in-law. What she didn't know was that it was because Zhao Siyu asked Aunt Lee to come to her, not other members of the Li family. They walked quickly and arrived at Dr. Zai's house not long after. As soon as she entered the room, she heard Dr. Zai's angry voice, "Your body is already like this and you still refuse to go to the hospital. If you want to die, go find another place. Don't die in my house." "You damn old man, are you cursing me to death?" Zhao Siyu asked angrily. Lu Jiu frowned when she heard her rude words. When she entered the room, Dr. Zai looked at her and said angrily, "Girl, it's good that you are finally here. Take this person out of my house. Even if you beg me, I won't treat her." "Dr. Zai, please calm down. I will take her home and come to apologize to you another day," Lu Jiu said and walked to the bamboo bed. Seeing Zhao Siyu's pale face, she frowned and asked, "Second sister-in-law, if you feel unwell, you should go to the hospital. Is it fun to cause trouble for others?" Zhao Siyu looked at Lu Jiu and said, "You said you would take me to the hospital before. Now I want to go. But first, I have to tell you that you are the one who has to pay the hospital fee." Lu Jiu thought her words were funny and laughed. Seeing her suddenly laughing, Zhao Siyu frowned and asked, "Why are you laughing?" After laughing for a while, Lu Jiu looked at her and said coldly, "Zhao Siyu, who do you think you are? Do you think you can order me around as you please just because I'm giving you a face? I did offer to take you to the hospital before because I pity you for being sick. I'm not begging you to go to the hospital. Your health has nothing to do with me. It's you and your husband's responsibility." She looked at Zhao Siyu coldly and added, "Since you are so powerful, why do you need my help? Besides, is this the way someone asks for help? You are too arrogant and look down on others. Since you rejected my offer before, the offer is no longer valid. You should go to your husband and ask him to pay for your hospital bills." Hearing her words, Zhao Siyu suddenly panicked. She could feel something was wrong with her body. Just now when she went to see Zhang Dongmei to ask for lunch, she felt dizzy and fainted. When she woke up, her nose felt hot and she had a nosebleed. Although Dr. Zai used acupuncture to stop the bleeding, she still felt dizzy and nauseous. The red rashes and bruises on her body also increased every day. "No, you said you would pay my hospital bills. You can't take back your words," she said in panic. "Yes, that's what I said before. But instead of going to the hospital, you asked me to give you meat. I gave you meat and other food, so it's already counted as I fulfill my words," Lu Jiu said. "But Zhao Siyu, although I treat you politely and may look weak, I am not a person who is easily bullied. I don't like your attitude, so I won't help you. If you need help from others, you should be polite when you ask. You should have the right attitude. I am not your mother nor your father, so I will not give way to you at will," Lu Jiu said calmly. After saying that, she stood there with her arms folded, waiting for Zhao Siyu's decision. She wouldn't mind helping her if she changed her attitude. but if she continued with such an arrogant attitude, she would not help her. She was tired of Zhao Siyu's arrogance and belief that she had the right to have everything. After waiting for a while, Lu Jiyu said, "It seems you still don't understand your situation. In that case, you should think more about what you should do. I'm very busy, so I won't accompany you." When she turned to leave, Zhao Siyu suddenly said, "Wait." Lu Jiyu turned around and looked at her nonchalantly. After hesitating for a while, Zhao Siyu finally clenched her fists and said, I'm sorry for my previous behavior. Can you help me take me to the hospital? Zhao Siyu felt her face burning from shame, but she continued after taking a deep breath. "I have no money. Please lend me some money." Lu Jiyu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Zhao Siyu still has some brains and is willing to change. She turned to Dr. Zai and asked, "Dr. Zai, how much is the fee?" "I only gave her acupuncture. Just give me 50 cents. Lu Jiyu took out her pouch, handed over the money, and helped Zhao Siyu to stand up. The moment she stood up, Zhao Siyu almost fell because she had no strength at all. Aunt Li quickly caught her before she and Lu Jiyu fell to the ground. "Aunt Li, I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Can you help me send my second sister-in-law back to my house?" Lu Jiyu said with an apologetic smile. "We are neighbors, helping each other is what we should do," Aunt Li said with a smile. Although Aunt Li spoke lightly, Lu Jiyu knew that Aunt Li had lost at least 2 or 3 work points by helping Zhao Siyu. After some hard work, they finally brought Zhao Siyu back to Lu Jiyu's house. Lu Jiyu took the bicycle, waited for Zhao Siyu to sit in the back seat, and tied Zhao Siyu to her body with a long piece of cloth. "Aunt Li, please help me tell my husband and my father-in-law that I'm sending my second sister-in-law to the hospital. I will treat you to a meal next time," Lu Jiyu said with a smile. "Don't worry, I will notify your husband and your father-in-law," Aunt Li assured her. "Thank you, Aunt Li," she nodded and left. After a brief conversation, Lu Jiyu hurried to the county town. At first, Zhao Siyu could still sit by herself, but halfway to the county town, Lu Jiyu felt that her back became heavier and asked, "Zhao Siyu, hey, are you okay?" Zhao Siyu didn't respond at all, but the hand wrapping around her waist softened. Lu Jiyu felt something was wrong, so she turned around and saw that Zhao Siyu had fainted. "Damn it," she cursed and pedaled quickly. By the time she arrived at the county hospital, she was so tired that she almost fainted. She waved to the guard and said, "Please help." The guard came over quickly and saw Zhao Siyu had fainted. He quickly untied the cloth and shouted, "Nurse, come help, someone has fainted." Not long after, nurses came over carrying a wheeled stretcher. They quickly put Zhao Siyu on a stretcher and pushed her into the emergency room. Lu Jiyu parked her bicycle, locked it, and went to the emergency room. As soon as she entered the emergency room, she saw doctors and nurses performing CPR on Zhao Siyu. Seeing this scene, her heart instantly went cold. If she didn't waste time forcing Zhao Siyu to ask her for help, would the current situation still exist? She stood there motionless, watching the doctor use the defibrillator on Zhao Siyu. "You can't die like this, you aren't supposed to die now," Lu Jiyu muttered in a low voice. In the original novel, Zhao Siyu was still alive when the male and female protagonists got married. It should be 2 or 3 years away from now. Therefore, she was not supposed to die now. What would happen to the plot if she died? The next moment, she heard a heartbeat coming from the machine. The doctor breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the heartbeat had returned. The doctor gave some orders to the nurses before going to check on another patient. Without her noticing, Lu Jiyu held her breath when he saw the doctor rescuing Zhao Siyu. It wasn't until Zhao Siyu's heartbeat resumed that she breathed a sigh of relief. She turned around and walked out of the emergency room. She sat in the empty seat, lost in her thoughts. She lowered her head and looked at her trembling hands. Just now in the emergency room, for a moment, she felt that Zhao Siyu's life and death were in her hands. Just because she thought it would be okay for her to just die, her heart stopped. Her heartbeat came back when she didn't want her to die. "What on earth is happening?" Lu Jiyu muttered to herself in fear. After sitting for 10 minutes, Lu Jiyu still couldn't find the reason for the feeling at that moment. She took a few deep breaths to calm herself down and went to the emergency room. After entering the room, she walked to Zhao Siyu's bed. When the nurse saw her coming, she asked, "Comrade, are you a family member of the patient?" Lu Jiyu nodded and said, "I am her sister-in-law. Comrade, how is her condition?" "The patient's condition is stable but not out of danger yet. We need to do some tests on her to determine her condition. For now, she needs to stay here and we will monitor her condition," the nurse said. "Comrade, please go to the counter and pay the fee first, and then we can transfer her to the ward." the nurse added, handing over a document. Lu Jiu took the document and said, "Thank you, comrade." After the nurse left, she turned to look at Zhao Siyu. There were several cables connecting her vitals to the beeping machine. She also had an oxygen mask on her face and an IV drip on the back of her hand. Lu Jiu looked at the red rashes and bruises on Zhao Siyu's body and was sure of her guess. Lu Jiu stood there for a while, making sure that Zhao Siyu was okay and asleep, before going to the counter to pay the hospitalization fee. After paying the hospital fee, she went to the post office to send a telegram to Li Chengshuan, informing him of his wife's condition. She didn't know if he would come, but she had to inform him. When she was done, Lu Jiu returned to the hospital and was in a dilemma. Because there was no communication equipment in this era, she could not discuss with her husband whether to stay and take care of Zhao Siyu. After all, she still has her own family to take care of, and it is impossible to stay in the hospital for a long time. She looked at the clock on the hospital wall. It was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. After considering the pros and cons, she decided to stay in the hospital. Maybe Father Li and the others will come over later. When she went to the emergency room again, the nurse walked up to her and asked, "Comrade, has the registration been completed?" "Yes, this is the document." Lu Jiu nodded and handed a piece of paper to the nurse. After the nurse entered the information into the computer, she called several more nurses and asked them to transfer Zhao Siyu to Ward 201. It was a 4-person ward, and it cost 2 yuan per day. Lu Jiu followed them as they moved Zhao Siyu to the bed and thanked the nurses. Feeling a little tired, she sat down on the chair next to the bed and looked out the window. The sun was shining, but she felt cold. She turned her head to look at Zhao Siyu and let out a long sigh. At the same time in Zai village, Aunt Li told Father Li, Li Chen's and Li Chenmo about what happened. They quickly went to Han Yuheng to ask for leave and then rushed to the county hospital. Since the matter was urgent, Han Yuheng let them go without saying anything. Since it was the ploughing season, they could not borrow tractors or ox carts from the production team. Therefore, they can only borrow bicycles from relatives. Li Chenmo could ride a bicycle, so he brought Father Li over first, while Li Chen's and Zhang Dongmei went home to get money and things that Zhao Siyu might need. Almost 2 hours later, they finally arrived at the county hospital. After parking and locking the bicycle, Li Chenmo and Father Li came to the counter to ask about Zhao Siyu. "Hello, comrade, how can I help you?" a nurse asked with a smile. "Hello, comrade, is there a patient named Zhao Siyu? We are her family," Li Chenmo said. "Please wait for a moment." The nurse nodded and typed on the computer. After a long time, she said, "There are several patients with the same name, Zhao Siyu. How old are your family members?" Li Chenmo and Father Li looked at each other for a moment, before Father Li said, "She should be about 27 or 28 years old." The nurses typed on the computer again and said, "There are new patients who match the information. She has been transferred to Ward 201. After receiving the information, Li Chenmo said, "Thank you, comrade." Since the elevator was full, both Father Li and Li Chenmo climbed the stairs. After arriving on the second floor within 10 minutes, they found the ward. Li Chenmo opened the door and walked in. As soon as he entered the door, he saw his wife sitting by the window in a daze. He didn't know what she was looking at, but when he saw her look, his heart skipped a beat. His wife was timid and must now be scared and overwhelmed by the sudden situation. He no longer wasted time, strode towards Lu Jiu and squatted in front of her. He stretched out his hands, covered her cold hands and said, "Wife, I'm sorry for being late. Don't be afraid, I'm here." Lu Jiu came back to her senses when she felt a warm palm covering her cold hands. She turned around and looked at the man in front of her. For a moment, she saw 2 men intertwined into one man. She looked at him for a long time before whispering, "Husband." "I'm here." Li Chenmo hugged her tightly and breathed a sigh of relief. "Husband," Zhao Siyu almost died. Her heart temporarily stopped beating, but luckily the doctor managed to save her. Lu Jiu said with a strange calmness in her tone. "Wife, look at me," Li Chenmo said. "It's not your fault. Whatever happened to her had nothing to do with you. You did great by sending her to the hospital," he added. Lu Jiu's tears rolled down from the corner of her eyes when she heard what he said. She felt guilty for delaying treatment, and also felt that Zhao Siyu almost died because of her decision at Dr. Zai's house. Li Chenmo hugged her and patted her back, comforting her. Father Li glanced at them and walked towards the bed. Seeing Zhao Siyu's state, he frowned. Judging from her condition, her illness does not appear to be new. After crying, Lu Jiu felt much better. She broke away from her husband's arms, wiped her tears and said, "Husband, I have sent a telegram to inform your second brother. My eldest brother and his wife will come over in a while. We will take turns taking care of the second sister-in-law if needed," Li Chenmo said. "Third daughter-in-law, what's going on?" Father Li finally asked after seeing that Lu Jiu had calmed down. Only then did Lu Jiu realize that Father Li was also here, and greet him embarrassedly, "Father. After I delivered lunch and returned home, Aunt Li came to tell me that my second sister-in-law had fainted. When I arrived at Dr. Zai's place, she had already woken up. But when I took her to the hospital, she fainted again before arriving. I don't know what's going on. We need to wait for the test results," Lu Jiu said. Father Li nodded and said nothing. They waited in the room for nearly an hour before a nurse opened the door and walked in. When the nurse saw Li Chenmo, she was stunned. She thought Dr. Yu was already handsome, but when she saw this man, her heart fluttered and began to beat wildly. Sensing her gaze, Lu Jiu coughed lightly and asked, "Comrade, have the test results come out?" When she came to her senses, the nurse coughed to cover up her embarrassment and said, "Yes, the doctor wants to talk to the family." Li Chenmo stood up and said, "I'll go." "Husband, I'll go with you too." Lu Jiu also stood up and looked at him. Li Chenmo thought for a while and said, "Okay, Father, we will be back after talking to the doctor." Father Li nodded and took a seat after they left the room. Sitting on the chair next to the bed, Father Li saw the bruises on Zhao Siyu's body, and a thought flashed in his mind that his second son might have beaten his wife. But he dismissed the possibility when he remembered how much his second son wanted to cozy up to his wife's family. There was no way his second son would beat his second daughter-in-law. Since he didn't know what happened, he could only wait for his second son to come and ask him. As for the second daughter-in-law's illness, it may be due to malnutrition or food shortage. His second son is so unreliable that he can't even guarantee his wife's food. At the same time, Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu came to the doctor's office. After the nurse knocked on the door, she heard a voice coming from inside, "Please come in." The nurse opened the door and said, "Professor Zhang, the patient's family is here." Professor Zhang raised his head and saw a couple walking into the room. He smiled at them and said, "Please have a seat." Lu Jiu looked at the old man in front of her in surprise. This old man looked familiar to her, as if she had seen him before somewhere, but she couldn't remember when or where she had seen him. After they took their seats, Professor Zhang said, "Comrades, you can call me Professor Zhang. I am the attending doctor of Zhao Siyu. We have received the test results, and the patient's condition is not optimistic." "Professor Zhang, what disease does my sister-in-law have?" Li Chenmo asked. "How is her condition?" Lu Jiu added. Professor Zhang placed several documents in front of them and said, "Here are her test results. We found a lot of rashes and bruises on her body. She also has breathing problems. Her immune system is also lower than the average person." "Does the patient have symptoms such as sudden weight loss, fever, headache, or fatigue?" Professor Zhang asked. Lu Jiu thought of the last time Zhao Siyu came to her house and said, "Yes, I noticed that in less than a week, my sister-in-law lost a lot of weight. Every time she finished speaking, she was out of breath, just like she had been after a run. As for fever, headache, or fatigue, I'm not sure." Professor Zhang nodded and said, "At present, judging from the symptoms, there is a 50% possibility that the patient has leukemia. We need to wait for the blood test results to confirm the patient's condition and decide on the next treatment plan." When Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo heard Professor Zhang's words, they both fell silent. Li Chenmo didn't know much about leukemia, but Lu Jiu knew that blood cancer was difficult to treat. Although the first isogenic BMT was successfully performed in 1964, the bone marrow was obtained from identical twins. The first successful bone marrow transplantation from an unrelated donor was not until 1973, and she did not know when the first successful operation was in China. What's more, the Chinese Bone Marrow Donation Program, CMDP, was launched in 1992 and began serving the public in 2001. Therefore, it is impossible for them to find an unrelated donor. It seems that the only possible treatment for blood cancer in this era is radiation therapy. While cancer can be treated, it takes a long time and a lot of money, and the treatment is high risk. More importantly, they didn't know what stage Zhao Siyu's cancer had reached or what her chances were of making a full recovery. As a patient's family member, you need to stay strong and provide moral support for the patient. The patient's mental health is also very important in treatment, Professor Zhang said. Taking a deep breath, Lu Jiu nodded and said, "Thank you, Professor Zhang. Please notify us when the blood test results come out. We will discuss the next step with the family." Professor Zhang nodded, hesitated for a moment, and added, Although this will cause stress to the patient, it is better for the patient to understand her situation. But of course, the decision will depend on what the family thinks is best. Thank you, Professor Zhang. We will consider your suggestion. Li Chenmo nodded and said. After leaving Professor Zhang's office and returning to the ward, they saw Li Chen's and Zhang Dongmei were already there. Li Chen's was talking to Father Li, and Zhang Dongmei was sorting out the clothes she brought for Zhao Siyu. In addition to clothes and daily necessities, she also brought some food. Seeing them entering the ward, Zhang Dongmei said, "Third brother, third sister-in-law, you are here." Sister-in-law, brother, Li Chenmo and Lu Jiu greeted them and walked to Father Li. "How is it? What did the doctor say?" Li's father asked. "The doctor said that we have to wait for the blood test results before deciding on the treatment plan. At present, the possibility that my second sister-in-law has leukemia is 50%. The doctor also said that it is best to let her know her condition, but I am worried that she will not be able to accept the news," Li Chenmo said. "What is leukemia? Is this disease dangerous?" Li Chen's asked. Since Li Chenmo didn't know much about this disease, he just shook his head. Seeing that they didn't know, Lu Jiu said, "Judging from the doctor's words and expression, this disease seems to be very dangerous. We must prepare for the worst-case scenario. Father, we should wait until the doctor confirms the second sister-in-law's condition before telling her. After all, she is the one who must go through all these hardships." Everyone agreed with her, but they had no intention of telling Zhao Siyu anything before confirming the disease. Father Li looked at Zhao Siyu, who was sleeping soundly, and asked, "Hasn't the second son replied yet?" "Father, I'll go to the post office to check. Maybe my second brother has replied, but the post office's staff hasn't delivered it yet," Li Chen said. "Okay, then go ahead," Father Li nodded. Zhang Dongmei felt that the atmosphere in the room was a little gloomy and said, "Father, you should also take care of yourself." Just when they were at a loss, Lu Jiu pulled Li Chenmo to the other side and whispered, "Husband, we are in the ploughing season now. You, father, and the others cannot stay in the hospital to take care of the second sister-in-law. They have to work in the fields. Otherwise, how about we hire a nurse to take care of the second sister-in-law? I can come over and see her once a day." Li Chenmo frowned and fell into deep thought. They really can't take too much time off because they need to work to earn work points. What's more, this matter should be Li Chengshuan's responsibility. It was his wife who was sick, but he was nowhere to be seen. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's talk about this later. This matter needs to be discussed with father and others." Lu Jiu nodded and sighed. "I don't know when the second brother will come. The situation of the second sister-in-law does not seem to be optimistic." Li Chenmo squeezed her hand and said, "Don't worry too much, we will do our best." Li Chen's waited at the post office for almost an hour before he received a reply from Li Chengshuan. The telegram was short and to the point. "I'm at work and can't go back. If she's okay, ask her to come to work. Otherwise, she will be replaced by the boss." As soon as Li Chen's heard the postman read the telegram to him, he had the urge to beat his second brother to a pulp. As a husband, how could he be so indifferent to his wife? Not only did he not come back, he didn't even bother to ask about his wife's condition and ask her to go to work instead. Li Chen's went to the hospital with a dark face. When he entered the ward, Lu Jiu had already guessed that this answer might not be good news. And just as she guessed, the moment Li Chen's told Father Li about Li Chengshuan's reply, Father Li became angry. "What sins have I done to have such a person as my son?" Father Li said disappointedly. "Father, should I go and bring my second brother back in person?" Li Chen's asked. Father Li took a deep breath and said, "All right. Before going to the factory, you should stop by Zhao's house and tell the second daughter-in-law's family about this. As her family, they must be informed." "I understand," Li Chen's nodded. "Husband, take this with you. You haven't had dinner yet, just eat when you're hungry," Zhang Dongmei said as she handed him a few pancakes wrapped in oil paper and a bottle of water. Li Chen's lowered his head and saw his wife placing 30 yuan and several food stamps in his palm, beside the food and water. Before he could refuse, he heard his wife say, "Just in case. You might need money when you go out." He held the money, nodded, and said, "You should go back. The children are still at your parents' house. We can't disturb them for too long." "All right, I'll go back in a while. You must be careful on the road." Zhang Dongmei nodded. Li Chen's nodded at her, turned to look at Father Li and said, "Father, I will come back as soon as possible." After Li Chen said this, he left the hospital and went to find Zhao Siyu's family. The Zhao family lives in the county town since their registered residence is here. Father Zhao, Li Chengshuan, and Zhao Siyu work in the same factory, while Mother Zhao is a full-time housewife. As for Zhao Siyu's brothers, they work in another city. Although their salary is only about 20 to 30 yuan per month, most of their family members work in factories. Therefore, they always look down on rural people. They even call themselves city dwellers and are very proud of their identities. Li Chen's only came to Zhao's house twice when his second brother proposed and got married. After 2 visits, he never visited his second brother's in-laws again. He didn't like their arrogant attitude and felt that his second brother was out of his mind to respect his parents-in-law so much when the other party looked down on him. If it weren't for the urgent situation and the fact that the matter was related to Zhao Siyu, Li Chen's wouldn't want to visit them at all. After walking for nearly an hour, he finally arrived at the compound where the Zhao family lived. The housing complex was owned by the government, and the factory workers had a room to live in. One room can accommodate 6 to 8 people. However, because Father Zhao was the director of the factory, he was assigned an independent house where he could live with his family members, including Li Chengshuan and Zhao Siyu. But because Mother Zhao felt that the house was too small and it was too cramped for so many people to live together, Li Chengshuan and Zhao Siyu were told to move to another place. Because Li Chengshuan and Zhao Siyu's names are registered under the house where the Zhao family lives, they can't ask for another place. Therefore, they can only rent a small room. Because of this, they have very little money left each month. If Father Li hadn't sent them some food every few months, they wouldn't have been able to live in the county town. Li Chen's walked into the building and climbed up the stairs. The Zhao family lives on the 3rd floor. When he stood in front of door number 319, he took a few deep breaths before calming down his breathing. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he knocked on the door. Not long after, an impatient voice came from inside the house. Coming. It's so late, who's coming to visit? The door opened, and Li Chen's looked at the old woman in front of him and said, Aunt Zhao, I'm sorry for coming to see you so late. However, there is something urgent that I need to inform you and your husband. When Mother Zhao heard what he said, she suddenly came back to her senses. She narrowed her eyes and asked, Who are you? Li Chen's was speechless when she asked him this question. How could she not even recognize her son-in-law's family when they had met before? I am Li Chen's, Li Chengshuan's eldest brother. When Mother Zhao heard his name, she let out a long "oh" and looked at him from head to toe, with a hint of disdain in her eyes. She crossed her arms and said, It's so late, why are you here? Don't you know it's impolite to visit during meal time? Li Chen's needed to take a deep breath to calm down his irritation and said, Aunt Zhao, I'm not here to leech off your meal. I'm here to tell you about your daughter's situation. Mother Zhao frowned and asked, What's wrong with her? Shouldn't she be working at this time? Without waiting for Li Chen's to explain, she added, This damn girl always brings trouble to the family even after she gets married. I don't care what happens to her. Since she has married into your family, you should be the one who worries about her matter. Her affairs had nothing to do with my family. She is your family's responsibility now. Li Chen's eyes turned cold when he heard her words. He didn't expect Mother Zhao could say these heartless words, as if the one they were talking about was a stranger and not her own daughter. No matter how bad Zhao Siyu's personality is, she is still her own daughter. Aunt Zhao, even if your daughter marries my second brother, she is still your biological daughter. How can you ignore her like this? Li Chen's asked in disbelief. Whether I ignore her or not, it's all my business. What does it have to do with you? If there's nothing important, you should leave, Mother Zhao said impatiently. When she wanted to close the door, Li Chen's blocked the door and said, Aunt Zhao, your daughter fainted and is still in the hospital. The doctor said she may have leukemia. I'm here to inform you and your family about this. You and your husband should go to the hospital with me. We can't decide her treatment ourselves. When Mother Zhao heard this, her eyes widened and she said in surprise, What? She is hospitalized. Do you know how much it costs to be hospitalized? She just fainted. Is it necessary to send her to the hospital? Just take her home, let her rest for a few days. Also, there is no need for my husband and I to go see her. We are very busy. Aunt Zhao, Li Chen's couldn't help but raise his voice when he heard her words. What are you shouting for? I'm not deaf, Zhao's mother asked loudly. Aunt Zhao, your daughter's illness is not as simple as fainting. She is still unconscious in the hospital, and the doctor said her illness may be very dangerous. As her mother, aren't you worried about her illness? Does her health mean nothing to you? Li Chen's asked in disbelief. A married daughter is like split water. Once she gets married, she is no longer a member of the Zhao family. She is now the daughter-in-law of the Li family. Her life and death are the responsibility of your Li family, Mother Zhao said coldly. After saying that, she closed the door, leaving Li Chen's standing outside the door with a look of disbelief on his face. He could hear Mother Zhao's words clearly as he stood outside the door. Pay, want to use my daughter to get money from my family, just dream on. Li Chen's clenched his fists, turned, and left. With such a family, no wonder Zhao Siyu's personality is like that. Now that he has told the Zhao family about Zhao Siyu's condition, Li Chen's doesn't care if they go to visit her or not. His first priority now is to get his second brother. Unlike the Zhao family, Li Chengshuan, as a husband, must take responsibility for Zhao Siyu. It took half an hour to get from Zhao's home to the factory where Li Chengshuan worked. When he arrived, the workers had just finished their work and everyone was leaving in groups. Standing outside the factory, Li Chen saw his second brother at a glance. Seeing him talking and laughing intimately with a young woman, he frowned. Second brother, he called him, with a hint of displeasure in his tone. Li Chengshuan was stunned for a moment when he heard the familiar voice. Looking back, he saw his oldest brother frowning and looking at him coldly. In an instant, Li Chengshuan's face turned gloomy. He turned to the young woman beside him and said something in a low voice before he walked toward his oldest brother. "Brother, what are you doing here?" he asked. "Second brother, father asked me to take you to the hospital. Your wife's illness is very serious, and you need to make a decision there." Li Chen's glanced at the young woman standing a few meters away and said, "Who is that?" he asked. Li Chengshuan knew who his brother was talking about, but he didn't want to explain anything. So he ignored Li Chen's question and said, "Didn't she just faint? Why are you talking as if she will die at any time?" Li Chen's took a deep breath to calm down and said, "Li Chengshuan, Zhao Siyu is your wife. It is your obligation and responsibility to take care of her. Currently, she is still in a coma, and we are still waiting for her blood test results. You'd better go to the hospital with me. Don't make me use my fists to ask you." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Chen's knuckles made a cracking sound because he clenched his fist too tightly. He looked at Li Chengshuan with threatening eyes. If he dares to talk nonsense again or refuses to go, he doesn't mind beating him until his mind works properly. Li Chengshuan was shocked when he realized that his brother was serious about what he said. After considering the pros and cons, he finally said, "Okay, I need to notify my supervisor. You go back first, I will go to the hospital in a while." "No, you must come with me, I will wait for you here. If you don't come back within 15 minutes, I will go in and drag you out," Li Chen said firmly. Li Chengshuan was angered by his words but did not dare to refute. His brothers could easily beat him to a pulp. Going against him now would not be a wise decision. He didn't want to embarrass himself in front of his colleagues, especially in front of his boss's daughter. After making this decision, he walked up to the boss's daughter and said gently, "Yanyan, I still have some family matters to deal with, so I can't go with you today. You'd better go back first." Chu Yanyan looked at Li Chen's handsome face and felt her heart beat faster. She looked back and forth between Li Chengshuan and Li Chen's and asked, "Brother Li, who is that man?" Li Chengshuan was a little unhappy since Chu Yanyan seemed to be interested in his brother. He controlled his jealousy and said calmly, "He is my older brother. He is married and already has 2 sons. When Chu Yanyan heard his words, the light in her eyes dimmed. This is the first time she has been attracted to a man. Unfortunately, he is married and has a son. Her father would never allow her to get involved with a married man, so she had no choice but to give up. She was disappointed and in no mood to visit her teacher, so she looked at Li Chen's again, nodded, and left. After sending her away, Li Chengshuan went to notify his supervisor. Instead of telling the supervisor that his wife was sick, he said that his sister was sick. The factory where he, Father Zhao, and Zhao Siyu work is managed by the government, but they work in different departments. It was Li Chengshuan who pulled the strings behind the screen that allowed Zhao Siyu to work in the factory. Although people doubted their relationship, everyone only knew that they were related. So after the supervisor learned about Zhao Siyu's situation, he gave Li Chengshuan a few days off. Li Chen saw Li Chengshuan coming back and asked, "Have you informed your boss?" "Yeah, but I only have 2 days off," Li Chengshuan said nonchalantly. He actually had 5 days off, but he didn't want to waste too much time on his old, ugly wife. He is now trying to get close to his boss's daughter. If he could hook up with Chu Yanyan, he could save 10 years of effort and climb the social ladder in one leap. Not knowing what his second brother was thinking, Li Chen said, "Then let's go. Father has been waiting for a long time." When they arrived at the hospital, it was already 9 o'clock in the evening. As soon as the door opened, Father Lei, Li Chenmo, and Lu Jiyu took a look at the door. Seeing Li Chengshuan finally arrive, Father Li said, "Second son, you are finally here." As soon as Li Chengshuan came in, he noticed that the atmosphere in the room was a little gloomy and said, "Father, what's going on?" "What's going on? Can't you see with your own eyes how your wife is doing?" Father Li shook his head and said with displeasure. After hearing what Father Li said, Li Chengshuan turned to look at his wife. He was startled when he saw his wife's condition. She looked pale as if there was no blood in her body. In addition, her whole body was covered in numerous red rashes and bruises, which looked horrible. In just a few days, his wife became so thin that she looked like she hadn't eaten for a long time. At this moment, Li Chengshuan not only felt no heartache, nor worried about his wife, he instead felt disgusted because he found Zhao Siyu's appearance repulsive. Compared with Lu Juyu, she looks like a ghost. When he turned around, he saw Lu Juyu was having an intimate conversation with his third brother. He didn't know what they were whispering about, but it made him feel jealous. Why did his third brother always get the best, while he had to accept the worst? Sensing his gaze, Li Chenmo raised his head and moved his body to block Li Chengshuan's gaze toward Lu Juyu. He looked at him coldly and said, "Second brother, why are you looking at my wife? Shouldn't you look at your wife instead?" Before he could speak, Father Li looked at Li Chen's and asked, "Eldest son, have you notified the Zhao family?" "I have informed Aunt Zhao, but I don't think they will come," Li Chen said. Father Li sighed. He understood the Zhao family's personality. They always measure everything in terms of money. If there are benefits for them, they will show up. If there was no benefit, they wouldn't come at all. What's more, this is the situation when their daughter was admitted to the hospital. If they come, they may have to pay for hospital bills. Therefore, even if they are beaten, they will not come. Since you informed them, it's their choice whether to come or not, Father Li said. Second son, your brothers and I have to go to the fields early tomorrow, so you must stay here to take care of your wife, Father Li added. Father, I can't stay too long. My boss only gives me 2 days off, Li Chengshuan protested. Father Li's face darkened and he said, Li Chengshuan, Zhao Siyu is your wife. As a man, you must be responsible for your own family. What's more, she can only rely on you now. But if I don't work, where will I get the money to pay for the hospital fee? What's more, I still have to eat when I take care of her. Without money and coupons, I can't buy anything. After hearing what he said, Father Li felt that it made sense. At this time, what they need most is money, so Li Chengshuan really cannot leave work for too long. But everyone has to work, and no one can stay in the hospital to take care of Zhao Siyu. At first, Father Li wanted Mother Zhao to take care of her daughter. After all, she has no job and only needs to take care of her husband. She could take a few hours to come and see her daughter. But he didn't expect Mother Zhao to be so cruel and not care about her daughter at all. Li Chenmo saw that everyone was in a dilemma and said, Father, how about we ask someone to take care of the second sister-in-law? Hearing his words, Li Chen's and Father Li frowned, while Li Chengshuan's eyes lit up. Third brother, do you have someone in your mind? Li Chengshuan asked. Third brother, if we want to ask someone to take care of the second sister-in-law, we have to give them something as a thank you gift. Li Chen's couldn't help but remind his third brother. Brother, I understand, Li Chenmo said calmly. After a long time, Father Li finally asked, Third son, who is this person? It's Aunt Zhao, Li Chenmo said with a smile. Hearing his words, Li Chen's looked at him doubtfully and said, Third brother, Aunt Zhao told me clearly that they have nothing to do with the second sister-in-law. It is impossible for her to take care of the second sister-in-law. As long as we give her some benefits, she will agree, Li Chenmo added casually. After listening to his words, they understood the benefit he was talking about. Judging from the personality of the Zhao family, as long as they are paid, they will agree. Just when everyone agreed to this plan, Li Chengshuan suddenly said, Third brother, I don't think you need to ask my mother-in-law. Doesn't my third sister-in-law have nothing to do at home? How about? Before he finished speaking, Li Chenmo interrupted him coldly, Stop with your wishful thinking. My wife is not a person who can be ordered around by you. She has a weak body and has no obligation to take care of your wife. The same goes for my mother-in-law. As a junior, how can I ask her to take care of my wife? Li Chengshuan was still arguing. Based on the fact that Zhao Siyu is her biological daughter, Li Chenmo said. Li Chenmo blocked Li Chengshuan's argument with just one sentence. I've given you a solution, it's up to you whether you do it or not, he added nonchalantly. After saying that, he took his wife's arm and stood up. He looked at Father Li and said, Father, it's already very late, we should go back now. Father Li and Li Chen's nodded. They worked in the fields and then rushed to the hospital. Although Father Li only stayed in the hospital, he was old and his body could not bear the stress. Second brother, my wife brought some food when she came here just now. You can heat it up and have it for dinner. You should ask your mother-in-law to take care of your wife before your day off is up. We will go back first and come to visit again in a few days, Li Chen said while patting Li Chengxun on the shoulder. After leaving the hospital, Li Chenmo and Lu Jiyu went to get the bicycles. Father Li sat behind Lu Jiyu, and Li Chen sat behind Li Chenmo. Riding a bicycle, they arrived at Zai village after an hour and a half. After they sent Father Li back, Li Chen's took the bicycle and pushed it home. Tomorrow he will return it to their relatives. Li Chenmo returned to their home while riding a bicycle, with his wife sitting in the back seat. It was already midnight when they got home. After locking the door, Lu Jiyu brought Li Chenmo to her space. Since her husband has to go to work early tomorrow, she might as well let him sleep in her space so that he can sleep longer. After taking a hot bath, they put on their pajamas and lay on the soft bed. Li Chenmo lay on the soft mattress and let out a long sigh. He hugged his wife and said, "Wife, you worked hard today, thank you." Lu Jiyu was exhausted both physically and mentally. When her husband hugged her, she nestled against him and found a comfortable position. After hearing his words, she just hummed softly and fell asleep. Li Chenmo leaned over and kissed her forehead, then closed his eyes and fell asleep. After 8 hours of sleep, Lu Jiyu woke up in a daze. Touching the soft bed beneath her, she thought she was still living in her apartment. When she felt the warm body enveloping her, only then did she remember that she had died and was living her second lifetime in another world. She put her arms around her husband's waist and brought the two of them out of the space. It was already midnight when they came out and appeared on the Kang bed. She closed her eyes again and continued to sleep. After another 3 hours of sleep, she finally felt refreshed. Before leaving the Kang bed, she leaned toward her husband and kissed him. After braiding her hair, she went to the bathroom to wash up before going to prepare breakfast. After lighting the fire, she boiled a pot of water on the stove and cooked a pot of fish porridge on the brazier. After the water boils, she pours it into a drinking water vat and lets it cool. For breakfast today, besides fish porridge, she only prepared meat and vegetable steamed buns and soy milk. After the porridge was cooked, she took it out of the brazier and heated the soy milk. The moment the soy milk is ready, so are the steamed buns. She took the steamer off the stove and boiled a pot of water for her husband to wash up. After the water boiled, she went to the chicken coop to pick up eggs and added chicken feed and water. She also filled a bucket of feed for the piglets and then went to water the fields and a peach tree. Not long after, Li Chenmo woke up. He went to the kitchen but didn't see his wife, so he went to the front yard to check. When he saw her watering the peach tree, he smiled and went to wash his face. After that, he took the pig feed and went to the pig pen. While he was cleaning up the pig manure and feeding the piglets, Lu Jiyu had already finished watering the peach tree and fields. Today she will start planting seeds, and she feels very excited just thinking about it. When the rooster crows, Li Chenmo comes back from the pig pen and goes to take a bath. After taking a shower, he went to their bedroom. Inside, Lu Jiyu had already placed breakfast on the small table on the Kang bed. Li Chenmo walked over, leaned down, and gave his wife a morning kiss. Different from usual, he lingered on her soft lips for a long time before letting go of her. When he parted their lips, he smiled and said hoarsely, "Good morning, wife." Lu Jiyu was panting and unable to respond to his greetings. She glared at him, but her swollen lips, watery eyes, and red cheeks made her look not intimidating, but seductive instead. Li Chenmo chuckled and couldn't help but kiss her again. After a long kiss, they finally had breakfast. While Lu Jiyu was eating, she said, "Husband, I plan to plant the vegetable garden today. I may not be able to go to the hospital." My second brother is there, so you don't have to go to the hospital. After plowing, we will have a day or 2 rest days before starting planting. We will go to the hospital in a few days, Li Chenmo said. Lu Jiyu knew that the help they could provide was limited, but she was still worried about the results of the blood test. What's more, it's no secret that the second branch has no money on hand. They will not be able to pay for hospital bills or needed treatment. Although she and her husband have a lot of money, their money doesn't come easily. At most, they can only afford hospitalization expenses. As for treatment, she doesn't feel confident covering up the cost. As if he knew what she was thinking, Li Chenmo said, "Wife, we will help them, but the premise is that the help we give them will not put us in trouble. If it will bring us trouble or put you in danger, I will not allow you to help them." Lu Jiyu nodded and stopped talking about this topic. As her husband said, she couldn't put herself in trouble to help others. She has her priorities, which are her husband, her family, and her own happiness. After all, Zhao Siyu is only a relative. She has her own husband and family. After breakfast, Li Chenmo cleared the table and washed the dishes, while Lu Jiyu went to the kitchen to fill the thermos with warm water, wrapped the scallion pancakes in oil paper, and put them in a bamboo basket. Lu Jiyu stood at the door of the front yard, handed the bamboo basket over to Li Chenmo and said, "Husband, I made some scallion pancakes. Give some to our parents and brothers. I will bring you more water later." If nothing important happens, just stay home, Li Chenmo said with a smile. He raised his head, looked at the rising sun and said, "I have to go now, see you later." "Be careful on the road." Lu Jiu stood on tiptoes and kissed him lightly on the lips. Li Chenmo touched her head and left in a good mood. When he reached the side of the road, he saw Ling Yun looking in the direction of his home. "Is that your wife?" Ling Yun pointed at Lu Jiu and asked. "Yes," Li Chenmo nodded. "You are blessed." Ling Yun glanced at the bamboo basket in Li Chenmo's hand and added. Li Chenmo smiled proudly and said, "If you are jealous, find a good woman to marry." Ling Yun acted as if he heard nothing and asked, "Did something happen yesterday? I saw you and your family left before the work was over." "Something happened at home," Li Chenmo said. Since Li Chenmo didn't want to talk about it, Ling Yun stopped asking, and the two of them walked in silence. After hesitating for a moment, Ling Yun said, "If you need my help, just let me know. I will help in any way I can." Li Chenmo was surprised by his words. They only chatted briefly for 2 days and were not even considered acquaintances. Ling Yun actually offered his help, which was beyond his expectations. Although it was unusual, Li Chenmo did not guard against him. Instead, he felt close to him, as if they had known each other for a long time. He nodded and said, "Okay, I will come to you when I need help. If you need help, you can also come to me. After all, we are neighbors." "All right," Ling Yun agreed readily. At the same time, Lu Jiu went to her space and took out the seeds from the warehouse. She got cucumbers, eggplants, tomatoes, peppers, pole beans, lettuce, melons, and sunflower seeds. She will distribute the seeds into different plots and plant some sunflowers with other plants in the same plot, as sunflowers are good companions for these plants. Since the seeds produced in her space do not require germination, she can plant them directly into the soil, which saves her a lot of time. After getting the seeds, she left the space and started planting lettuce, eggplants, peppers and pole beans in her front yard. As for tomatoes, cucumbers and melons, she will plant them in the backyard. After preparing the soil for planting, it took her 4 hours to complete her work. When she was done, she massaged her sore lower back and let out a long sigh. Then she took a bucket, filled it with water from the space, and watered the seeds. It took her another 2 hours to finish the job. Standing in the backyard and looking at the vegetable garden, Lu Jiu felt very satisfied. After washing her face, hands, and feet, she went to her own space to prepare lunch for her husband. Today she made salty bamboo tube rice, egg drop soup, stir-fried vegetables, and mapo tofu. For an afternoon snack, she made pukis, a snack from Indonesia. Pukis is an Indonesian street food made from eggs, sugar, wheat flour, butter, yeast, and coconut milk. Pukis come in many flavors, but Lu Jiu made banana and pandan flavors for her husband. This snack is soft, fluffy, chewy, sweet, and has a coconut flavor. It is also baked using a crescent-shaped mold. Pukis cannot be stored for a long time and must be eaten on the same day, as this snack uses coconut, which may spoil faster. But with her space, she can keep her snacks at their best condition. So she made a lot of these snacks. After making the snacks, she packed the lunch and pukis in a 3-layered bamboo basket and left her space. Today, she delivered lunch on her bicycle. She tied up the bamboo basket in the back seat and put several jars of water in the basket in front. With a bicycle, she can save more time and energy. She can also bring more water to her family. Along the way, the villagers looked at her with envy and jealousy, especially when they saw the bicycle. Mother Yang's eyes flashed with greed when she saw her riding a bicycle. She thought that after her son slept with Zyro Yiking, he would be able to get more money from the Zyro family, who knew that so many days had passed, and not only did she not get anything in return, Zyro Yiking also refused to contact her family and go to work in the field to earn work points, saying that she was not feeling well. Mother Yang felt a little regretful when she recalled the time when Yang Lichao told her that he wanted Lu Jiu to marry him. She should agree to help her son. After all, everyone knows how much the Lu family loves their daughter. So if they can get her, they can get money from the Lu family. It's a pity that her son failed to get his hand on Lu Jiu. Now they're stuck with that bitch who can't do anything but lie on the bed. Lu Jiu ignored the attention of everyone and rode her bicycle to the north area, where she saw her husband plowing the fields hard. She was distressed to see his clothes soaked with sweat. Although he was wearing a straw hat and a towel around his neck, his skin still turned red under the dazzling sunlight. She parked her bicycle under the tree where her husband kept his bamboo basket. She took out a jar from the basket in front and untied the 3-layered bamboo basket. Putting down the jar and bamboo basket, she opened the bamboo basket and took out several packages wrapped in oil paper. After that, she waved at Li Chenmo and shouted, "Husband, I'm going to give water to our parents first." Hearing her words, Li Chenmo stopped what he was doing, turned around and nodded to her. Watching her ride away on her bicycle, he resumed his work. There is still some time before lunch break. In less than 10 minutes, Lu Jiu arrived at her parents' and Father Li's workplace. Seeing her coming on her bicycle, Mother Lu said nothing and just nodded to her. Everyone already has their own place for their water bottle and food, so Lu Jiu went to get her parents' and Father Li's water bottle to add water. Before leaving, she placed the snack next to the water bottle. She also sent some water and snacks to Li Chen's, Zhang Dongmei, and her brothers and sister-in-law. When she returned to the north area, she heard sirens blaring over a loudspeaker. Not long after, the villagers stopped working, washed their faces, hands, and feet, and then rested under the trees. When Li Chenmo walked to the rest area, he saw that his wife had laid a piece of cloth on the ground and taken out the lunch. Seeing the bamboo tube rice, he felt his mouth watering as he recalled the taste. Seeing him coming over, Lu Jiu handed him a wet towel and said, "Husband, wipe yourself and cool down first." The towel was wet from the water in the space. When he wiped his body, Li Chenmo felt refreshed and sighed with satisfaction. "Wife, did you make salty bamboo tube rice or sweet bamboo tube rice for lunch?" he asked as he sat down next to Lu Jiu. But since you like it salty, I made salty ones. I also made some stir-fried vegetables, mapo tofu, and egg drop soup. You can drink the soup first, she said and handed him a bamboo tube. Li Chenmo took the bamboo tube and drank half of the soup before taking the bamboo tube rice and started eating. The bamboo tube rice was originally made of glutinous rice, but Lu Jiu was afraid that eating too much glutinous rice would be bad for her husband's stomach, so she replaced the glutinous rice with white rice. They ate a spoonful of bamboo rice and a mouthful of mapo tofu. The stir-fried vegetables are crispy and fresh, and the greasiness is washed away. While they were eating with gusto, the people around them looked at their food with envy while biting into their hard, coarse-grained pancakes. Sensing their gazes, Lu Jiu raised her head and saw several familiar faces looking at them with hopeful eyes. The original soul has less contact with her relatives, so even if she inherits the memories of the original soul, she only knows her immediate family members. As for those relatives, she only felt a little familiar. Seeing her looking at them, a middle-aged woman smiled and asked, "Jiu, what did you bring to your husband today?" Lu Jiu looked at her but still couldn't remember who she was. Before she could react, the old man next to the middle-aged woman said, "Don't you see that she doesn't recognize you? Stop putting your hot face on a cold bottom." The middle-aged woman felt a little embarrassed after hearing what the old man said and said, "Father, how can you say that? Didn't the seventh aunt say that her daughter lost part of her memory due to a high fever? It's normal for her not to recognize us." After the middle-aged woman said this to her father-in-law, she looked at Lu Jiu and said, "Jiu, I am your eldest maternal cousin's wife. This is my father-in-law, your eldest maternal uncle. If you forget us, it doesn't matter. We still have a lot of time to get to know each other again." After learning their identities, Lu Jiu recalled that Mother Lu had 6 older brothers and 1 younger brother. Her mother was the 7th child and the only daughter in the family. As for her eldest maternal uncle, he has 3 sons and a total of 9 grandchildren, all boys. Judging from the family genealogy, it seems that it is rare for her mother's family to have a daughter. Among 8 children, her mother was the only daughter. By her generation, she was the only daughter. In the next generation, they only had Lu Wenfeng as their granddaughter. This is why her family loves their daughter more than their son. "Eldest maternal uncle, sister-in-law, how about we have a meal together? I made a tofu dish today," Lu Jiu asked with a smile. Since they were her family, she couldn't ignore them. Li Chenmo had no objection to his wife's decision, and added, "Eldest maternal uncle, let's have a meal together. My wife cooked some extra dishes today, and it will be wasted if we don't finish them." After listening to their words, Song Hai's expression softened a little and he let out a low hum. When Wu Hunning saw that her father-in-law had agreed, she quickly packed their lunch and walked to sit down next to Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo. As soon as she sat down, she glanced into the bamboo basket and took a deep breath. "Jiu, what did you cook for lunch? It smells so delicious." She looked at the food and said in surprise. "Sister-in-law, this is bamboo tube rice, this is mapo tofu, and this is stir-fried vegetables. As for the bamboo tube, there is egg drop soup inside," Lu Jiu said, opening the bamboo tube rice for them. As soon as Wu Hunning saw the plump white rice mixed with meat and sausages, she reached out and picked it up. Before Lu Jiu could hand her a pair of chopsticks, she had already scooped up the rice with her hands and tasted it. Seeing her eating so roughly, Lu Jiu was stunned. Song Hai felt that his face was thrown away by his eldest daughter-in-law's rude attitude, so he coughed to remind her. Hearing his father-in-law's cough, Wu Hunning came back to her senses and laughed awkwardly. She took the chopsticks from Lu Jiu's hand and said, "I'm sorry, it's just that the food is so fragrant that I can't help myself." Song Hai glanced at her in displeasure, then looked at Lu Jiu and Li Chenmo. He took the chopsticks from Lu Jiu's hand and said, "Our Song family rarely has a daughter, so you should come home more often. Your maternal uncles miss you quite a lot." After hearing what her uncle said, Lu Jiu smiled and said, "I will visit more often. Eldest maternal uncle, drink some soup to soothe your stomach first." Song Hai nodded and tasted the food. He was surprised that his niece was so good at cooking. He nodded repeatedly and praised, "My child, you have good skills." After saying that, he glanced at Li Chenmo and said, "You have also benefited a lot from this marriage." Li Chenmo chuckled and said shamelessly, "I have." Seeing Song Hai's face darken, Lu Jiu quickly placed mapo tofu on the bamboo tube in his hand and said, "Eldest maternal uncle, try this." With her distraction, Song Hai forgot about Li Chenmo's shameless words and enjoyed the lunch. With the addition of 2 more people, the meal was completely eaten without leaving a drop of soup behind. Lu Jiu packed up the bamboo basket and found that there was still some water left in the jar, so she refilled Song Hai and Wu Hunning's water bottles. She tied up the bamboo basket on the back seat and put the jar in the front basket. She turned to her husband and said, "Husband, I'm going back first. I put some snacks in your basket. You can have it for later." "Okay, be careful when riding a bicycle," Li Chenmo said, secretly holding her hands tightly. He sighed as he felt his wife's soft hand on his palm. It would be better if he could hug her and kiss her. Not knowing what her husband was thinking, Lu Jiu squeezed his hands before leaving. When she rode to the central area, she parked her bike near Pan Magia's working area and said, "Magia, do you want some water? I still have some left." Hearing her voice, Pan Magia opened her eyes and looked at her. She quickly took out a package wrapped in oil paper and a water bottle from the basket, walked to Lu Jiu and said, "Jiu, these are the dried fruits I told you before. I went to your house yesterday, but you were not at home, so I can only give it to you now." Lu Jiu took the dried fruit and said with a sigh, "There was an accident at home yesterday, and my husband and I were not at home. We didn't come back until midnight." Pan Magia was startled by her words and asked, "Are you okay? Do you need any help?" "It's okay now, you don't have to worry. If I need help, I will definitely tell you. Come on, fill up your water bottle," Lu Jiu said, handing a jar to Pan Magia. Pan Magia was still a little worried, but since her friend didn't want to talk, she didn't insist. She filled the water bottle and returned the jar to Lu Jiu. After a while, she suddenly remembered her cousin's request. She approached Lu Jiu and said in a low voice, "Jiu, my cousin asked me to send you a message. He wants to know when you will send some snacks again. Customers keep asking about your snacks and meat sauce." Lu Jiu thought for a while and said, "I don't know if I can visit the market in the near future. I'm quite busy at home." "How about I send those items for you? After all, I visit my cousin every 2 or 3 days, Pan Magia asked. Lu Jiu was startled by her words and asked in a low voice, "Why do you visit the black market so frequently? What if you are caught?" "Don't worry, I'm familiar with every corner of the market now. What's more, I still have my cousin, and he won't let anything happen to me," Pan Magia said with a proud smile. "You are really bold," Lu Jiu said with wide eyes. "I have no choice. You know I like to eat meat, so I have to go there to buy some meat to satisfy my craving," Pan Magia said helplessly. After saying this, she glanced at Ling Yun. While she does enjoy eating meat, she used to go there once every 8 days. But recently, because of someone's affairs, she needs to go more often because the meat and grains are consumed very quickly. At first, she did not want to have any further contact with Ling Yun, but when she saw him at work, she was amazed at his strength and speed. When she noticed, not only did he do his job, he also helped her do her work. He actually only used one arm, but he completed the work faster than the healthy, educated youths. In order to thank him, Pan Magia could only agree to his request and help him prepare lunch. That's why she needs to buy meat and grains every 2 days. As for the money, it was given by Ling Yun. She actually just spent more time and effort without spending a penny. Considering that the offer was a good deal, she agreed despite her reluctance. "Then I'll trouble you. When will you go to the market again?" Lu Jiu asked. Pan Magia came back to her senses after hearing her words and said, "I will go there early tomorrow morning. You may need to get up in the middle of the night to prepare the items." No problem, you can use my bike so you can go faster, Lu Jiu said after calculating the time. Okay, I'll come see you around 1 o'clock in the morning then. With the bicycle, I can get back to the village in 2 hours. I'll have enough time to take a nap before going to work, Pan Magia said with a smile. Lu Jiu nodded after listening to her words. After a brief conversation, Lu Jiu returned home on her bicycle. With nothing to do at home, she went into her own space and started making more meat sauces, snacks, and wine. Meanwhile, in the Yang family's house, Su Anna was hiding in the bushes by Zyro Yiking's bedroom window. She looked around, and only after she saw that there was no one around did she dare to come out from the bushes and knock on the window. Hearing the knock on the window, Zyro Yiking, who was sleeping on the Kang bed, opened her eyes. At this moment her eyes were cold and full of hatred. There was no arrogance, conceit, or naivety in her eyes anymore. The previous arrogant yet naive Zyro Yiking died that day, leaving only a tainted woman who wanted revenge and was full of hatred for the world and everyone, especially Lu Jiu. After she fainted that day, Zyro Yiking had a long dream, which seemed like reality to her. In her dream, the person who finally married Li Chenmo was herself. On the first day she came to Zai village, she was rejected by the Lu family and ended up living with the Li family. Because of living under the same roof and her constant care for Li Chenmo, he is finally willing to get close to her. In the dream, Lu Jiu did not die, but she broke off her engagement with Li Chenmo and married Du Jiawen. A few years after marrying him, she committed suicide due to depression and Du Jiawen's betrayal. After her death, Du Jiawen married Huan Yuanfeng, who was divorced at the time. As for herself and Li Chenmo, they finally got married after Lu Jiu's death. Li Chenmo's behavior changed dramatically on their wedding day. He seemed to wake up from a deep sleep and finally regain his clarity. The way he looked at her changed from closeness and warmth to indifference. He suddenly became a stranger to her. He had never touched her hands from the moment they stayed under the same roof until after they were married, let alone kissed or slept with her. Their marriage was dull because he treated her as politely as a guest. When she asked him why he was never willing to consummate their marriage, he only said that she was not the one he loved and that he would never betray that person. No matter how many lifetimes it takes, he will continue to search for that person. A few years after their marriage, Li Chenmo passed away due to illness. His illness was the sequela of his abdominal injury. In the end, she only became Li Chenmo's wife in name. When she woke up from her dream, her hatred for Lu Jiu increased sharply. Although this dream was different from the plot of the original novel she had read before, she thought about it for a long time and finally understood that her dream was her future. But because of Lu Jiu, her future has changed. It turns out that it was not Su Anna who changed the plot, but her. Lu Jiu is the person Li Chenmo is looking for. She wished for Lu Jiu's death. Not only did she take away her husband, but she was also the reason why he never truly loved her. Hearing the knock on the window again, Zyro Yiking took a deep breath to control her emotions. When she opened the window, the hatred and coldness in her eyes had turned into fear and despair, mixed with a glimmer of hope. As soon as the window opened, she heard Su Anna's voice. Yiking, what took you so long? Do you know that I sacrificed my rest time just to come and find you? Zyro Yiking sneered in her heart after hearing her words. After taking her money and delaying things, how dare she say these words to her? If she hadn't delayed things, she wouldn't have fallen into Yang Lichao's hands. One day, she will let her pay off this debt, including interest. Although Zyro Yiking had thoughts in her heart, she still said tremblingly, Sister Su, you are finally here. Have you received my brother's reply? I have informed your brother and he said he will be here in a few days. By the way, Yiking, I have used up the money you gave me for the telegram. If you want me to send another message to your brother, you have to give me more money, Su Anna said without any guilt. Zyro Yiking gritted her teeth to hold back her anger and said, Sister Su, I have no money left. Why don't you lend me some, and when my brother comes, I'll ask him to return it to you. Su Anna frowned when she heard her words, but considering Zyro Yiking's family situation and her brother's military rank, she finally agreed and said, Okay, when your brother comes I will pick him up. We are friends and I will not let you suffer without doing anything. Thank you, Sister Su. I need to go now, I will come to see you next time, Su Anna said and then left in a hurry. Zyro Yiking looked at Su Anna's back coldly. She could guess what Su Anna was thinking. Li Chenmo was already married and had no interest in her, so she wanted to find another man and her target was her brother. Bitch, how dare you have a design on my brother? Want to be my sister-in-law? Not even in your dream, she said coldly. After closing the window, she lowered her head and looked at her bruised body and the marks left by Yang Lichao. The hatred that had just been suppressed surged out of her heart like a huge wave. blurring her mind. "Ah, bastard, bastard. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you all." After she screamed loudly, she rushed into the bathroom, took a wet towel, and washed her body frantically. "How disgusting, so dirty, Yang Lichao, I will kill you." When she scrubbed her body roughly with a wet towel until her skin turned red and even peeled off in some places, she suddenly felt nauseous and retched repeatedly. After vomiting for a long time, she finally came to her senses. She quickly finished washing and went to change clothes. Then she buried her whole body in the quilt and muttered in a low voice, "Dirty, disgusting. I'm going to kill you all. Lu Juyu, die, you deserve to die." No one noticed that Zyro Yiking had been driven crazy by the abuse by Mother Yang and Yang Lichao. At this moment, what was engraved in her soul when she traveled through time and space disappeared without a trace. From this moment on, she no longer has the halo of a heroine, and her fate with the hero is completely severed. At the same time, the so-called heroine's halo also entered Lu Juyu's soul unknowingly. She just felt dizzy for a while, and then everything returned to normal. Since it was just a fleeting feeling, she didn't think much about it and continued to brew wine in her own space. Meanwhile, in a flat in the house community, Huang Yuanfeng was sitting on a bamboo chair on the balcony in a daze. It has been almost 2 weeks since she was taken back to the town by her family. This town is larger than the county town near Zai village and is close to the city. After being brought back by her family, she underwent multiple tests at the hospital. The doctor said that her injuries could be healed in a month, except for the broken leg, which would take at least 5 months to fully heal. Her parents breathed a sigh of relief, but only she knew that what tortured her most was not the pain from her physical injuries, but the trauma caused by that incident. She thought that after Su Anna learned about her situation, she would at least visit her in the hospital and at least apologize to her. After all, although she was also at fault, her current situation happened because of Su Anna. Over the past week, she had spent a lot of time thinking about her past and present situation and future plans. She knew that the Du family had terminated her engagement with Du Jiawen. Her mother angrily rejected their decision, but her father agreed because the Du family agreed to give them money as compensation for the cancellation. For so many years, she regarded the Du family as her own family, but they did not hesitate to throw her away like a dirty rag when she encountered a calamity. Even her own father looked at her with disgust hidden in his eyes now. Only her mother still treats her a little bit better than others. Huang Yuanfeng let out a self-deprecating laugh and said to herself, "Why is it my fault? I never asked for this. Why doesn't anyone understand my pain?" When she was about to fall into depression, she suddenly remembered Pan Meijia's words that day. What did she say again, she thought. After trying hard to recall for a long time, Huang Yuanfeng finally remembered. At that time, she had lost the will to live and even hated herself for being dirty, but Pan Meijia held her hands tightly without any disgust. Pan Meijia looked at her with clear eyes and said firmly, "Huang Yuanfeng, although I hated your actions and intentions to hurt my friends, I will not blame you anymore because you have already reaped the consequences, but I can't understand your pain either." At that time, when she heard her words for the first time, she thought Pan Meijia was here to gloat, but what she said next stunned her. But as the leaders said, as a woman we can also hold up half the sky. No matter what happened in the past or what will happen in the future, you can't give up your life and your future. You must stand up and let everyone know that you are not weak. As an educated youth, you are educated and capable. You have better conditions from others since you were born, allowing you to have better resource. Even if you do not depend on any man, you can live very well. But I have lost my purity and dignity. How should I continue to live? Huang Yuanfeng asked. So what? Dignity is not based on the purity of your body. Dignity is based on how you carry yourself in this life. As long as you don't look down on yourself, no one can look down on you. We may never be friends, but I will never look down on you just because of what has happened. Be brave and live a wonderful life, Pan Meijia said with a smile. After Huang Yuanfeng recalled the conversation that day, her depressed mood slowly disappeared. Yes, although she is no longer pure, she is still herself. She is still young and has a long way to go. She can't give up her life because of these things. If she can't get married, then she will never get married in her life. She can still make money working in the factory and will live her life brilliantly. When she made this decision, the gloom that had surrounded her since that incident immediately disappeared. The light finally returned to her eyes and she stood up from her chair slowly. When she turned around, she found her mother looking at her with pity and self-blaming in her eyes. "Mother, I have thought it through. You don't have to worry about me anymore. Please tell my father that I agree with his arrangement. I'm going to work in the factory," Huang Yuanfeng said with a slight smile. When Mother Huang heard this, she burst out crying. She was very worried about her daughter's condition. After coming back, she just sat on the chair and stared at the sky in a daze. She didn't speak, didn't eat, didn't even respond to anyone. Fortunately, she thought it through. Mother Huang stepped forward and hugged her, saying, "Feng Feng, no matter what happened in the past, you are still my precious daughter. Mother will never abandon you." Huang Yuanfeng nodded, tears rolling down from the corners of her eyes. She hugged her mother and finally cried out all her grievances. This would be the last time she cried over it. From now on, she will become a new Huang Yuanfeng and live bravely. At the same time, at the county town's hospital, Zhao Siyu's blood test results finally came out. Since there was only Li Chengxuan there, Professor Zhang could only explain Zhao Siyu's condition to him. Professor Zhang sat in his office and showed the test results to Li Chengxuan. Chapter 209, Show. Comrade Li, this is your wife's test result. We have confirmed that your wife has leukemia and she is already in the 3rd stage. Her condition is not optimistic. Due to malnutrition, her body is very weak. Even if we administer the best medicine, it can only improve her condition slightly. As for treatment, we recommend that the patient undergo radiation therapy, Professor Zhang said solemnly. Although this therapy is effective against cancer cells, it also has side effects and is not cheap. You should discuss this with the patient and your family first. We will wait for your decision, he added. Li Chengxuan was stunned when he heard Professor Zhang's words. He thought Zhao Siyu just had a fever or a cold. Why does her illness sound so serious? He had no idea what the doctor was saying at all. Comrade Li, are you all right? Professor Zhang looked at Li Chengxuan's stunned expression and asked. After a while, Li Chengxuan came to his senses, took the test results and said, "I'm fine, thank you, doctor." After saying that, he stood up and walked out of the office as if nothing had happened. Professor Zhang looked at his back and frowned. As a doctor, he has met countless families of cancer patients. Most of them showed shock, fear and worry, and even cried on the spot. This was the first time he had seen someone so calm after learning about his wife's illness. While he was suspicious of Li Chengxuan, he could only suggest treatment plans to patients and their families. As for what they decided and did, he had no right to interfere. Back to Li Chengxuan, after leaving Professor Zhang's office, he did not return to Zhao Siyu's ward but walked to the cafeteria. He sat down on an empty chair near the corner and looked at the test report calmly. After a long moment, he suddenly let out a low laugh and then burst into uncontrollable laughter. He laughed for a while until the nurse gave him a frowning look before he stopped. When he finally calmed down, he said with a proud smile, "Even the heavens helped me. Zhao Siyu, Zhao Siyu, you have trampled on my dignity for so many years, and finally, this day has come. I don't even have to think of ways to get rid of you, you will die of illness. Heh, it would be better if you could die quickly so as not to delay my matter with Yanyan," he added ruthlessly. Li Chengxuan sat for nearly an hour in the cafeteria, before finally standing up and walking towards Zhao Siyu's ward. The moment he opened the door, his happy and pleased expression instantly disappeared, turning into a face full of shock and disbelief. When Zhao Siyu woke up, she found that she was alone in the hospital ward. Before she could call someone, the door was pushed open, and her husband walked in as if he had lost his soul. "Husband," she called him hoarsely with confusion. Li Chengxuan raised his head and looked at her with red eyes. Tears flowed from the corners of his eyes, and he strode to her side. He hugged her and said in a hoarse voice, "Wife, I'm sorry." Zhao Siyu was startled by her husband's sudden outburst, and could only lie there in a daze. Before she could ask anything, Li Chengxuan said, "Wife, what should we do? You are so sick and we have no money to treat you." When Zhao Siyu heard what he said, she was stunned and asked tremblingly, "Husband, what do you mean by this? Who is sick? I'm fine, I don't feel uncomfortable at all." A cold light flashed in Li Chengxuan's eyes for a moment, before he regained his composure. He looked at her, took out the test report and said, "Wife, this is your test report. You have leukemia, which is a very dangerous disease. You won't live for long." When Zhao Siyu heard his words, her mind went blank. She even forgot to blink or even breathe. No one can calmly accept the news that they are going to die. Li Chengxuan saw her looking at him without saying anything. He shook her shoulders and said, "Wife, please say something. Please don't scare me." Zhao Siyu felt dizzy and nauseous due to the shaking. Before she could say anything, she fainted again from shock. Seeing her suddenly fainting, Li Chengxuan looked at her coldly. Instead of calling a nurse or doctor, he helped her lie down and covered her body with a hospital blanket. He stood up, wiped his tears, and smiled. After that, he left the ward and went to find Zhao Siyu's mother. Since she is her daughter, she should take care of her. Not long after he left the hospital, The nurse entered the ward and was shocked to see Zhao Siyu having a seizure. She quickly pressed the button on the hospital bed and performed first aid measures. While doctors and nurses were trying their best to rescue Zhao Siyu, Li Chengxun was walking towards Zhao's house. When he arrived at the community, Mother Zhao was sitting on a bench in front of the community chatting with her neighbors. The moment she saw him, her face darkened and the smile disappeared from her face. She looked at Li Chengxun coldly and asked, "What are you doing here?" "Mother-in-law, I came here to talk to you about Siyu's condition," Li Chengxun said with a hint of distress. When the neighbors heard Zhao Siyu's name, their eyes lit up and their ears perked up. Mother Zhao saw that they were keen on gossip, and her face became even more gloomy. She stood up, looked at her neighbors and said, "Everyone, I still have things to take care of, so I'll take my leave now. Let's talk some other time." After saying that, she glanced at Li Chengxun and said, "Come with me."